This just in on CBS Sports HQ, the college transfer portal is popping. It's in full swing, and we just keep seeing big names on the move. Former Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah received a deal from Duke that is believed to pay him $8 million over 2 years. And that's what sources are telling CBS Sports' John Tolte and Chris Hummer. So this makes Mensah the highest paid player in college football history up to this point. The former three-star prospect is now set to be Duke's QB1, of course, in 2025. All right, let's welcome in Chris Hummer for more on how this all went down and everything. And Chris, again, before we get into the state of the NIL, how it's always rising, how this impacts other position players at the college level, how did this deal go down with Mensah and Duke? Because it's a lot of money that we're talking about here.
Yeah, a lot of money for somebody. I'm sure like 6 months ago, most people in college football had no idea who Darian Mensah was, to be honest. He broke out as a redshirt freshman for Tulane this year, helped lead him to 9 wins. John Summerall had an excellent season, was kind of in the mix for a couple head coaching jobs, decided to stay, but his quarterback did not, which is just kind of the way of NIL in this era. And frankly, the Duke situation at quarterback was one of the bigger eye-openers of the cycle. Malik Murphy won 9 games for Duke this year, the transfer from Texas. It was a shock to see him go in the portal. But with like some additional reporting and some time, I think we have a better understanding of why that happened. And it seems that Duke went into the portal and got Darian Mensah and maybe recruited over Malik Murphy a little bit, because the deal of $4 million a year is historically significant. If that number is accurate, and we have multiple sources telling us that's what they believe it is, it'd be the highest paid deal in college football, likely. We're not 100% sure on the history of deals in the sport, but it's more than double than what top quarterbacks were getting just this time last year. So it's a bit of a watershed moment in the sport, and I think it just speaks to where the sport is right now in terms of money flowing in and people being willing to spend it. Even schools like Duke, which we don't think of as traditional like blue bloods in terms of football.
Yeah, and to your point, Chris, this deal, you know, if it is, you know, what it is and says it is, this is twice the amount of money that Cam Ward got a year ago for going to Miami, which is obviously thought of having, you know, a little bit more cash flow than Duke per se. But what does this mean moving forward? What do you think NIL is going to look like? And not just in terms of the quarterback, but also kickers. We were talking about that off camera. You know, it's what, 50 grand that's going to cost you a kicker this day and age in the college transfer portal. But what do you think NIL on a larger scale is going to look like moving forward? Is it just going to keep growing and growing, getting bigger?
I think it depends. I think this cycle is pretty unique just because of like the time we're at in college athletics. The House settlement is coming in 6 months, which is essentially a deal, a multi-billion-dollar deal between the schools and athletes agreeing to pay them revenue that they did early in the NIL era. But athletes that are currently in college are also going to get paid, because there's going to be about $20 million that schools are going to distribute to their athletes annually. So schools that didn't have a lot of NIL money before now have a lot to spend. But at the same time, what we're seeing is the schools that had a ton of money with collectives are spending basically their entire budget in the time before rev sharing kicks in. So what you're seeing is schools double dip, and you're also seeing schools that didn't have a lot of money before get a lot of money. And it's caused a huge cash flow inflow into the sport. So schools that you don't traditionally think of as like transfer portal threats or really like recruiting threats are throwing around more money than they ever have, which has largely inflated the numbers that we're seeing players get paid. I've heard anywhere from 30% to double what we were seeing last year. And in some cases, it's 5x. It's wildly different than what we saw a year ago. And $150,000 kicker is not out of the norm right now.
Oh my gosh. And we know how fluky some of those college kickers can be, and you're going to be paying 150 grand for them. Chris Hummer, we certainly appreciate it. By the way, there's a really good article up right now on CBSSports.com that maps out the entire Darian Mensah situation with Duke, of course, reportedly receiving a deal from Duke that it's believed to pay him $8 million over 2 years. Chris Hummer, all the crew there at 24/7 Sports, they do a phenomenal job when it comes to the transfer portal, recruiting updates. Make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel, or you can check them out at 247sports.com.